Devlin, Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
iOS, it's only sport. Martin Devlin, Lachlan War. Welcome to the highlights, a package of today's show, which aired on the platform. We do a live radio broadcast 1 till 4 every weekday. It's the only independent sports radio show in this country. And what a show today! Guests highlighting on this particular podcast include Simon Doull, talking about Finn Allen and that incredible innings yesterday. Now, I don't know whether you knew or not, but I didn't know that Finn Allen doesn't have a current T20 contract for the IPL. I just thought that would have been an absolute later. Well, I think he's probably first cab off the rank now after that remarkable knock yesterday. We'll talk to Simon Doull all about that. Tohu Harris, Warriors captain, previewing the season. So many questions to put to Tohu. He signed, remember, an extension last year, so he's with the club through to 2025. Martin Tyler, the esteemed Martin Tyler, the voice of English football. Marty was calling Nottingham Forest versus Blackpool today in the FA Cup, and just by sheer coincidence, we were going to talk to him. By sheer coincidence, Chris Wood, All Whites captain, scored the winning goal. Plus, Greg Martin, our favourite Ocker, our favourite Aussie, in his rightful and royal slot every Thursday on the program. We begin, as always. I don't want this to be negative. I don't want to be a negative Nelly about it, but we pride ourselves on the fact that we're forthright, we're honest, we try and talk the truth. And after being back after a month off, our first week on air, I was just thinking rugby. We haven't done any rugby on the program this week. Why is that? We begin the program, tablets in hand. I say, gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. Let us go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
I have not missed rugby. I've got to be honest about that. I don't know about you, but I haven't missed it. I don't miss it. Well, certainly not over the last 3 or 4 or 5 weeks on holiday. I haven't missed it a bit, not a jot. That's not to say, if you put a Six Nations test in front of me this weekend, I wouldn't watch it. Of course I would. What I'm saying is I don't miss the constant nature of the sport. The Super Comp? Yeah. Look, I'll get into it like I do every year, like most of us do every year, as it meanders along. But I can't say that I've missed it. I'm not hanging out for rugby. I'm not amped for the Super Comp starting again like I am, for example, the NRL. Now that I have really missed, and I wonder how many fans there are out there like me, my generation, brought up on rugby, that are now, and it's happened over many years, and now worn out by it, not as enthused about it. It's not as essential as it once was to my sporting life and my sport watching. I'm just not as impressed as I once was by it, not as into it, just not as in love with it as I once was. I can't wait, though, for the NRL to start, that competition, and put aside everything about the Warriors that we saw last year that captivated the country. That comp, the NRL, is one of the best in the world. It's one of the best week-to-week competitions there is in the world of any sport. Now, you can't say that about Super Rugby because it certainly isn't even the best rugby competition in the world anymore. We all know this. It's predictable. It's staid. It's unexciting, mostly unexciting. It's mostly samey. We all know this. We know what teams are going to be involved again at the business end of the comp. We know which teams won't be involved. Look, I'm not saying I don't like rugby. Of course I like it. What I'm saying is I haven't missed it. I haven't missed it. Not even a little bit.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
Lachlan, sports news headlines, please.
Yes.
Oh, Cam Norrie started as well. Cam Norrie.
He's underway.
The wrist.
Your best friend.
I want
The
him
wrist.
to go through this tournament till at least the 4th or 5th round. So just so that it proves my point that he was never injured in Auckland. It was a crock.
Be
Come on,
nice.
Cam.
Be nice.
Prove
He's
me right.
carrying a very sore hand.
Come on, Cam. Yeah. The only reason you got a wrist injury, mate, is because all the tossing off you did in Auckland about telling us that you were actually injured, mate.
He's been playing darts. Maybe he's been playing a bit of pool, bit of snooker. Anyway.
Pocket billiards, I'd call it.
Blues coach. I'll start off with some rugby. Blues coach Vern Cotter, new Blues coach, is confident that his newly named captain Patrick Tuipulotu has the steady hands to take the baton from Brodie Retallick and Sam Whitelock and be a standout at lock for the All Blacks this year. Well, you'd hope so, considering his experience. We need some good locks. New Zealand-born flanker and former Jiu-Jitsu champion Ethan Roots has been named in England's Six Nations squad for the first time. Boxing, Kiwi David Nika will be on the undercard at the Tyson Fury Alexander Usyk Ring of Fire heavyweight title fight next month. He'll meet a yet-to-be-confirmed opponent in Saudi Arabia on February 17. That fight's coming up very close, that Fury-Usyk one. Former women's world number 1 tennis player Arantxa Sanchez Vicario and her ex-husband have been found guilty of fraud.
Wow.
A Spanish court ruled today.
Not the first tennis player. If you remember, big boom boom Boris Becker as well, went to prison for it.
Is he out now or is he still there?
Yeah, he's out.
He's out now. Sad news out of the NBA with Golden State Warriors assistant coach Dejan Milojevic passing away after suffering a heart attack at a private team dinner in Salt Lake City. He was 46 years of age.
That's going to kill the dinner, isn't it?
Yeah, no. Well, do you stay? That's the question. Like, after he gets taken to hospital, do you get dessert?
Steaks just arrived.
Yeah, I mean, mate, let's tell you what, everything's expensive right now. I'm not going to just walk out of...
We're not making jokes about that. We're not making jokes about this.
Sorry.
No.
But as I say, very sad news out of the NBA, very sudden death. All right, some results to run through. Of course, the Australian Open is going on at the moment. The headlines were stolen by Novak Djokovic, 10-time Australian Open men's singles champion, after he invited a heckling fan to confront him on the court, face-to-face. This during his second round win against local
He did the
Alexei
Eddie Jones. Come here and say that,
Popyrin.
mate. Come here and say that, mate.
Yeah, fair enough. I love that. If you're going to yell at me, come down here and say it.
And that spectator did exactly what the one with Eddie Jones did. Oh, no, it's okay. Sorry, mate. Again, it's just dickheads trying to get on TikTok, isn't it?
Yeah. Djokovic
That's what it is.
Winning yesterday, as well as Andrei Rublev. Stefanos Tsitsipas among the winners. Francis Tiafoe knocked out in straight sets. That was a shock result. In terms of the women's draw, let's have a look here. Paula Badoza, who is Stefanos Tsitsipas' girlfriend, and his form has been pretty average since they actually got together, which is amusing. But she won. Her form's fine. Arena Sabalenka winning yesterday as well. Coco Gauff advancing in straight sets. Later, Fernandez was knocked out today. If we're looking at some matches coming up, Maria Sakkari, this result's coming up as a today result, but I think that game was overnight. I think it was very late New Zealand time. She was knocked out, Maria Sakkari. Iga Swiatek is playing. She's taking on Danielle Collins, who made the Australian Open final a few years ago, I think. So that'll be a tough match for the top seed. Jessica Pegula in there as well. Elena Svitolina playing. In terms of the men's, I would imagine that Carlos Alcaraz is playing today. Let's have a look. Alexander Zverev is underway in his match, as Martin said before. Cam Norrie playing as well. Casper Ruud is playing. Carlos Alcaraz, or Alcaraz, however you want to say it, he's in action at 3:30 this afternoon. FA Cup this morning. A few more results. Here we go. Nottingham Forest winning 3-2 thanks to a Chris Wood winning goal in extra time. They beat Blackpool. They advanced. Bristol City beating West. Oh, that was yesterday's result. Excuse me. Everton beat Palace 1-0. So the two teams who were charged by the Premier League for breaking financial fair play rules, or whatever they describe it as, they won. Wow. Norwich City beating Bristol Rovers. Super Smash, we've got a couple of games on. Men's and women's game. The women are underway right now in the matchup between the Northern Brave and the Canterbury Magicians. That's at Seton Park in Hamilton. The men's sides of those two franchises, if you can call them franchises, I guess, they are playing as well. Northern Brave men taking on the Canterbury Kings. That's at 5:30 this afternoon. NBA. Oh, actually, Australia are playing, aren't they? Australia and the West Indies. Let's have a look at what is going on there. Day one, was it yesterday? I think it was. It was indeed. We are underway in the first innings. On day two, as day two started, Australia trailing by 99 runs. The West Indies were knocked out, bowled out, should I say, for 188. Australia 89 for 3. So day two in that matchup. Some NBA games on today. None have actually tipped off yet. A lot of them tip off at 1 o'clock. Usually it's about 10 past 1. So we've got Pistons and Timberwolves. That's one of the first games underway. Celtics Spurs should be a good one. Victor Wembanyama's been playing very well. My Lakers up against the Dallas Mavericks. Kyrie versus LeBron. Jazz Warriors. That game's been postponed, though, due to the death of the Warriors' assistant coach. Trailblazers Nets on later today. Those are a number of games. And any ice hockey fans out there? Are you an ice hockey fan?
No, look, I've got lots of mates. I've never really got into it. I've gone to a couple of games and enjoyed it when I've gone, but no, I just don't have a team, mate.
Yeah, a few of those games going on today, a couple on at the moment. Carolina Panthers up against the Detroit Red Wings, New Jersey Devils, Montreal Canadiens, Buffalo Sabres, and Chicago Blackhawks. That game's been postponed. I wonder if that's a weather reason. But that's what's making news, Martin.
Devlin.
Oh my goodness me!
The platform.
Tohu Harris, Warriors captain. I don't know anyone that does not absolutely love this guy. As a player, everything that he stands for, he is so courageous, he's so tenacious on the field. He's one of those guys that you just can rely on. You know that every week he's going to be a bare minimum 8 out of 10. He just is. He's a beast of a player. He's a brilliant captain, and we got to speak to him today on the program. What a treat. you obviously haven't just been sitting on your butts doing barbecues over the Christmas period and that. So when did training start? When does it start full on?
So there was a big group that started about maybe 5 weeks before our Christmas break, and then another big group 3 weeks before, and then obviously had the break over Christmas. But we a lot of the boys kept on training and sending in, I guess, what they were doing, and it sort of started something. So everyone sort of jumped on board, and then we started back up on the 8th, back into full training, preseason training, and getting ready for the trials, which is coming up pretty quick.
Is it a lot easier in the hot sun, getting out there sweating and going through your paces when you had the season that you had last year?
Yeah, I think so. It's you're sort of going out to training, I guess, with more belief in what you're putting into practice, I guess. More belief, more experience in it, and you can do things faster. Although I think like how Webby is, we still can't skip past the fundamental side of it. So we have one day where it's literally just like the simplest skills. So he breaks it right, peels it right back, and we just perform the most simple skill over and over again to make sure those fundamentals are strong. But then, obviously, as the week rolls on, heading towards what he calls our game day on Fridays or Saturdays, we work our way towards that. So the drills get bigger, and it's a fun way of doing it because it sort of mimics the season, I guess.
Do you have any fears about the season? I know it probably sounds a strange question, but what I'm trying to get at here, probably in a clumsy way, is that after the success of last year, trying to build on that success and making sure you don't go backwards, is there a fear there about that or not?
No, I guess it's how you look at it. Like personally, I'm excited by the challenge of even being even better than last year. I guess if you look at it like that and have that fear, it can really be a negative effect. So I'm looking at it with excitement and as a challenge, and can't wait to try and be better than what we were last year.
And how do you define that?
Well, there's key things that we measure throughout the season that, and we're going through a process at the moment where we're reviewing certain parts of it. And it's sort of, everyone sort of agrees we're good at a lot of things, but we weren't where we wanted to be. We weren't elite at them. And so it shows us that we've still got a whole heap of improvement in it. And we've just gone through the defensive stuff. And I think we finished third best team in the competition. So there's obviously room for improvement there. And that's a goal that we want to achieve. The two best defensive teams in the competition, they played each other in the grand final.
That's right, exactly right.
So there's obviously a clear goal that we have for us, but it's about breaking it down into smaller areas so we know how to get there, not just have a lofty goal and no idea of how we're going to make that happen.
Your body, and you go into the field with more badges than Lazarus sometimes. How are you exactly, and how are your knees, and getting another year on the contract? You've got 2 more full years of this to put yourself through.
Yeah, my body's good. It's feeling really good, and training every day throughout preseason with no worries. So the strapping is more for peace of mind than anything. It's not necessarily needed. It's just there, one to as a reminder that, to be careful in some instances, and another reminder just to have that peace of mind to know it's supported, I guess, so I don't have to hesitate with things and all that sort of nonsense. But structurally, it's my body's good.
What's your favourite position, mate, and what do you really want to play?
Oh, I love the role that Webber's given me, playing in the middle, playing in that 13 role and linking up with the halves, linking up with Shawnee and all that stuff. So yeah, that's really enjoying that role.
I want to put some names to you. Roger is back. Obviously, you're the skipper. He's kind of like, I feel like maybe a spiritual skipper of the team. Is that a nice way of saying it?
Yeah. He's been awesome to have back. Everyone's just in awe of how hard he trains and what he puts his body through to each and every day, and how far he pushes it to get the most out of it. So it's certainly spurring on a few of the boys to push themselves a bit more.
Do we know what position he's going to be starting in yet?
No, it's still a bit unclear. He's sort of just jumping in, trying to learn as much as he can, learn the new system as much as he can, and get as many reps in different places as possible. And I'm not even sure he knows. I think there's an idea of how it can look and the possibilities of a couple of different possibilities. So whether it's centre, wing, fullback, it's sort of he's got to have an idea of all those positions. But him and Webby sort of probably have more of an idea than the rest of us. We're sort of just going along with it and excited that he's going to be somewhere.
Centre, wing, fullback. Is there a chance that he could get closer to the ruck with his hands on the ball? I know that the number 6 has been suggested before. I don't know whether he's thought of that or whether he's even tried any of it.
Yeah, I don't know about in that position, but like whatever position he plays, I'm sure Webby will have a way of getting him in closer anyway, and because he's such a dangerous player with the ball in his hands, like why wouldn't you throw him in there somewhere and terrorise the ruck.
Kurt Capewell, everything that we read, that we hear, that people say about this guy, he just seems like the best kind of player to bring to the Warriors. Tell us about him.
Yeah, he's been awesome. He's brought a positive and hard-working attitude. He's still learning us and learning the system as well. So it's going to take a little bit of time there, but yeah, he's showing his experience. So it's not taking him long to sort of get things and add to the team, I guess. So he's a little bit like Mitch Barnett. They sort of just hard workers. They're two of the fittest players in the team, not just in the forwards, but in the team. And you know what you're going to get from them each and every week. So we're very excited to have them.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
Devlin.
Yeah, the next rule.
The platform.
Listening to him there, Locke, before we go to the break. Again, I mean, I just got to keep asking this question. For the Warriors, for me, I liked what he said at the beginning about, you know, they got to forget about last year and build again. I measure it in terms of points table and things like that, because I think it's a really good way of measuring it. You know, to me, when I look at all of my teams at the start of the season, in my useless commanders, I think I want to win the division. I don't care about anything else. I just want to win the division against those 3 hated opponents. That's first and foremost for me. For Man United, it's make a Champions League spot, okay? You know, I don't look at a title challenge at the moment because we're not up for that, but I want to get into a Champions League spot. I want to get 4. For the Warriors, even after last year, first and foremost, I'm ticking top 8. That's what I'm ticking at first, okay? And then if it starts getting towards the end of the season and there's a chance, hey, look, we might make, 1 till 4, and obviously it's been proven you can't win the comp unless you finish 1 till 4. Is that how you look at it for the Warriors, and also how do you look at it for your Bronx?
I think with the Warriors, you've got it's got to be what you achieved last season's got to be a minimum now, unless there's been some massive change, like your coaches left, like I don't know when Ivan Cleary left, or you've lost a whole lot of players. But if you've got the bulk of your playing group, you've got your key players still, which they do, and you've got your coach, and you've recruited relatively well, finishing in the top 4 and being 1 win from a grand final should be the minimum.
Yeah, it's a good target. Yeah, I like that.
Now, obviously...
But I'm not going to be disappointed if they don't get there.
No, because then at the same time, as a Warriors fan, you should be realistic and think, okay, well, there's teams like the Cowboys, like the Rabbitohs, like the Parramatta Eels, Manly to an extent.
All good teams.
Very good teams.
Even the Doggies, mate. They're not going to be doldrums.
Well, Cronulla, I would say to an extent as well, who are very good teams with good coaches who have the talent, who maybe didn't achieve what they should have last season and could well get back there.
When you say that, it's a monster of a competition, isn't it? I mean, tell me the crap teams out of 17 teams in that competition.
The West Tigers.
Yeah.
The Dragons. And then everyone else, I think, like even the Dolphins, they've recruited very well. They've got a shot at the top 8.
Well, that's it.
And they've got probably the best coach in the game.
So you've probably got at least 15 of the teams that are legitimate contenders to be a top 8 side, right? That is why the competition is so good, isn't it?
It's it's very much like the NFL when, you've got your top teams, but every year, and the NRL's like this, you'll have your 4 or 5 teams from last year that make the top 8, but there's always like 3 or 4 new ones. NFL's the same. There's always like 4 or 5 new teams in the playoffs every year. So someone's got to drop out.
Martin Tyler, the voice of English football. You will know this man as soon as you hear him. He has been calling the beautiful game out of old Blighty for decades. I do say decades. He has done every single World Cup since 1966. I've personally known him for over a couple of decades. He's such a cool dude, so generous with his time. And just by sheer coincidence, he was calling the FA Cup this morning when Chris Wood got the winning goal for Forest against Blackpool. He was on the program. FA Cup, the romance of, and we were watching here at work, Blackpool, Nottingham Forest, and you were calling that game. And look, it's a competition that both of us have loved for a long time. I know it's diluted and changed, but you get a cup tie like that today. It's just magic, isn't it?
It is. The competition keeps fighting for its place in the sun, to be honest with you. There are those who perhaps don't feel the traditions. Not everybody involved in top-level English football or even lower-level English football has grown up in England and all the special feelings about the FA Cup, or indeed watched it around the world. A lot of them have, and obviously in your part of the world you treasure it and give it its proper prominence. But it has to fight for its own life amidst all the other competitions. And the scheduling, with everybody wanting to get a piece of the top players and creating longer competitions, even new competitions, all of which makes it difficult to get the FA Cup into its proper perspective. The replays are under threat, but we've had a wonderful replay tonight, and there have been others up and down the land in the last couple of days as well. So it's nice to be able to advertise its wares and play a small part in doing that like tonight. But I fear for it slightly. But, when we get to the sharp end, the business end of it in April and May, I think everybody comes around to it. It's just how we get through these many rounds. It's a competition which starts in August with all the tiny little clubs coming in. It gives everybody a chance. I've played in the FA Cup.
Go on.
And a lot of people have at lower levels. And, it's something you had to, when I was playing, you had to sign an extra. You signed for a non-league team, and you signed the league form and everything. When they thought you were good enough to play in the FA Cup, they gave you another form, and because you had to pay to be registered. Right. And when you got that, I've never forgotten the special feeling of being asked to sign and looking at a match program. I've still got a few at home of those long bygone days when I had my time as a player. And the commentator has been brilliant to me, and tonight was just another night of excellence, excitement, and the only job I had to do was keep up with it, really. It gave it its own script.
Well, I can tell your voice is hoarse from it, and obviously the Kiwi connection at the end there with our man Chris Wood, the All Whites captain, scoring as well. So it's just absolutely perfect being able to catch up with you tonight. We're so proud of him. Martin, I think he's scored as many goals in the Premier League now as David Beckham has, and we've only had a handful of Kiwis, as you know, that have played in the Premier League. But I'd love your thoughts on him and his career, because I don't think he gets the props he deserves down here in New Zealand, playing at that level, scoring goals at that level.
No, he's a long way away, isn't he? But of course the games get televised, and that hat-trick he scored recently at Newcastle, which was, I think, making a point personally, but winning 3 points for his team, which would have been more important to Chris than making the personal point. He just gets on with it. Everybody knows what he can do. Yeah, you can point out what he can't do as well. But really, the number of people that have employed him and continue to employ him and continue to get the best out of him. He didn't get many touches tonight. He certainly didn't get many chances. But when that ball goes across, it's all very well saying he's like 3 inches out and he's only going to knock it over the line. But you have to be there. And only players with a special nose for goal can sense that moment. Other people be hanging out on the edge of the goal area, or not even, recognising where the ball might go across the face of the goal. And Chris has just got that. I think it's something that you have in you. I'm not sure you can coach it, and he's got it. And he's obviously scored plenty of goals for New Zealand as well. But over here, he's reliable. He very rarely gets a headline that isn't other than about scoring goals, and he's just been a proper professional, and a credit to those who've coached him, and a credit to where he's come from.
The voice of English football, Martin Tyler, is with us. And I know that it's late and you're on your way home and you're very busy. So I've only got a couple of quick questions for you. The murkiness around the financial fair play, the Everton and Forest are both getting smacked again. Man City, and a date is set in court. We don't know what date that is. It makes me sad. Does it make you sad, Martin? I don't know how all of this ends, and I don't know whether it is ever going to be any side of fair in the end.
Well, I think it's understandable for one reason, that the government want to have a regulator of football that they employ and appoint. They don't want football regulating itself. They feel there's too much self-interest. Now, the Premier League, from a standing start 33 years ago, is it now, have produced a wonderful product around the world. I'm proud to be associated with it. And they have constantly upgraded, moved it on. But there are always things that people say, well, you're looking after yourselves. The 20 clubs own it, so to speak. And it's not transparent. So to try and avoid being, put under the regulator's microscope, or try to avoid a regulator at all that's independent, they're trying to come up to show that they are looking after their own problems. And I think it's a little too obvious that they're doing that now when this question hasn't been arisen before. So I understand why, and unfortunately some clubs are caught up in it. The legislation around financial fair play probably needs a tweak or two, and it will get a tweak or two. But unfortunately, those tweaks won't happen until the punishments have been handed out for these current round of charges. It is complicated, because if it was just a total free market, everybody could spend what they want, get into debt, maybe run the clubs out of business, and people could come in at the bottom and buy a club, rather like the class of 92 have done at Salford.
Yeah, right.
And buy their way up to the top. But they haven't had the resources to do that. But now with financial fair play, it would be very difficult for other clubs to do it. So the criticism of financial fair play is that it's put in place by the rich to keep them rich and keep those not so rich away from them. So there's a lot of issues around it. It is unfortunate because there's so much good publicity from the quality. It's been an amazing season, Martin. I mean, the games have, I think, the highest goal ratio at the moment than there's been since the season in the 1960s, goals per game. Thrilling games, late goals, drama, real quality. And it's a shame that you're quite right to ask the question, because it is sort of the asterisk around all the good stuff. Yeah. What's going to happen? And I don't know the answer, but they've got a problem with the Manchester City. They say it's a different kind of charge, but there's 115 of them, and the people will not be satisfied with it being pushed under the carpet. It won't be pushed under the carpet, but they've got to front it out now. You said there is a date. We don't know when that date is, but that needs to be in the public domain as much as Everton and Forest.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full.
The Tight Five.
5 separate sporting topics, around about a minute or so on each, and when the bell reminds us, we move on to the next topic, FA Cup. And that goal from Chris Wood. Does Chris Wood get enough props here in New Zealand for what he has achieved and is achieving in his football career? Novak in an on-court confrontation with Dickhead fan last night. We can play you the audio of that. Byron Callagher. Was I right, Lachlan? Was I right? This drunken, violent, woman-beating thug should be expunged from the All Black records forever. I'm going to bang that drum again. Breakers Saturday night, Knicks tomorrow night. Let's start with those two. Breakers playing Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, sitting at the moment 8-12. It's just simply a must-win. If you're doing anything tomorrow night, well then before you're doing whatever it is you're doing, make sure that you do the Phoenix. And we're going to go along to the Boozer tomorrow and watch it. Top of the table clash against Melbourne. Drew, if you're in Wellington, go along, give them a boost.
Go to the game, yeah.
Go to the game. This will be the best game, well, so far of the year to see, but also what you can do to help those players win this game, I believe, is you will have an influence. If that crowd is in the 15 to 20,000, the players will be uplifted if they see it. Strangely, I think the Breakers have probably got more chance of winning, though. Melbourne Victory are a bloody good side. I'd probably take a point out of that game, but I actually think the Breakers are going to get on a roll here. They've got 8 games left, I believe, in this team. Am I wrong?
Yeah, but I think you're the same as me, where we've seen them go on runs before and have success with the coach and the majority of this playing group. A chunk of this playing group. Don't know if I can say majority. And they, we talked about this yesterday, they went on a run over Christmas, so we've seen them string wins together so they can get the job done, and they've beaten good teams in that stretch, and they've won games on the road. So they should be able to, I guess, get back. I mean, they've got 8 games left, and Marty Mail said yesterday, I think it might have been today, that, we're now looking at it as we've end of season sort of sprint to the playoffs. We've got to win these 8 games. If we can go 6-2, we know we've got a great chance, but we want to win all 8 games, and that's all it takes. And you can kind of divvy up these regular seasons into little sections.
Yes,
you can do it a lot in the NBA as well, do it a lot in baseball. And so now's the time to sort of, get it together. Like, it's wishful thinking, sitting here saying, I think they can sneak into the top 6. You don't need to have more wins than losses to get into the top 6, but there's still an element of confidence in this team being able to get the job done.
Phoenix?
Well, I'm waiting for them to fall off. Not because I don't think they're good and I don't have confidence, but it's just that it's the Wellington Phoenix. They've never finished top of the table. Whenever they've been top, they've fallen off at some stage, of course, and they've never won the...
Okay, well, let's just enjoy the fact they're top of the table at the moment. Yeah. Go along, have a few tomorrow night.
Just quickly, I'm looking at...
We're not taking our bloody shirts off in the last 10 minutes, are we?
No. I'm not showing off this rig. I've got some serious holiday fat there. But look, half the stadium, by the looks of things, is sold out. You can't buy tickets on half of the stadium.
Oh, that's brilliant. Great
so the
news.
other half,
Brilliant.
I mean, you can get best of tickets from as low as $14, for goodness sake. Head along.
Byron Callagher, I don't want to talk about this creep, ladies and gentlemen, but I want to make the point again. I said yesterday that New Zealand Rugby have got to make a stand, take a stand here. Read the Stuff article where he's now up on charges of strangling and beating a woman from 2015. Well, he was actually engaged to another woman in 2020, and she's put up a whole lot of photos of black eyes. It's hideous. He is a drunken, violent thug. He gets off on beating women. Now, I know that there, if you delve into All Black history, there's a hell of a lot of All Blacks that have done all kinds of things, but I think you've got to assess every case on its merit. And the thing with Byron Callagher is he has used his fancy-dancy, very expensive lawyers to get name suppression on a number of these charges in the past, saying that it would directly affect his ability to earn money and his business profile and brand, meaning he uses the All Black name to earn money. He is Byron Callagher All Black. It's like he's got 4 names, right? Mm. And if I was the rugby union, you don't own that, Byron. We own that name. You don't own that name, and you no longer are allowed to use that name in association with anything you do because you're an embarrassment, you thug. That is what New Zealand Rugby need to do. They won't, but that's what they need to do. Novak in confrontation, the Eddie Jones kind of confrontation, some dickhead up in the crowd having a go. Novak says, come down here and say that. I absolutely blame social media for this. I know I sound like an old man yelling at the moon, and I am. But it is social. It is just jerks trying to get 5 seconds of fame while their mate films it on Instagram, isn't it? I don't know why security didn't remove the guy.
Yeah,
I mean, you're allowed to have a go, have a bit of jip and stuff like that, but it obviously went way further than that for Novak to react like that.
I don't know if it's so much that the bloke who did it wants to get his 5 seconds of fame, but what I think it is, and Novak talked about this post-match, that it's people, and I can understand this because this is me to an extent in my lounge when I'm watching sport, or maybe at a game, that you've had a few drinks and you get a little bit confident, and then you like something that's going on, and there's a guy who's pissing you off, and then you want to have a crack at them, and I actually think it's the alcohol, and it's like if you're on your own, you don't do it. You do it when you're there with your mates and they're egging you on.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's so much the social media thing, but I actually think it could very well be an alcohol thing. One thing, they didn't police it at all, by the way, because I got away with it. But one thing, when I was at an NBA game in Houston, there's a rule that, and I think it's an NBA rule actually, that you cannot purchase alcohol after half time, I think, or might be after 3 quarters, and you can't consume any during the 4th quarter. That's a rule that got an NBA game. So maybe there's a way that the Australian Open can try and incorporate that if they haven't already. But, I mean, the NBA, no one came and told me off when I was sipping my best on the 4th quarter. But the thought is there, I guess.
Not often I'm on Novak's side, but I am on this particular one. Just quickly, Patrick Tuipulotu, as Vern Cotter says, primed to take that All Black spot. Well, of course, he bloody should. Yeah. I mean, him and Tupu Vai have got to be the 2 guys that number one.
Scott Barrett.
Well, you see, with no Shannon Frizzell, I mean, does he go to 6?
No, Ethan Blake had us a 6. No, Scott Barrett had his best year in rugby, I think, both Super Rugby and All Blacks, and he played a lot last year.
All right, problem solved. There you go, Razor. You send me a thank you card. And finally, does Chris Wood get his props? He's already scored as many goals in the Premier League as David Beckham. Mm. Now, I know Bex was a winger and a midfielder and that, but You know, look, he's never going to get recognised at the Hellberg Awards, is he? And it's such a shame because to do what he does, and he was there in the right place again for Nottingham Forest today. He scored the winner.
Yeah. He does from a media perspective. To be fair to our mainstream media, they do write a lot of articles around him, and he usually,
deservedly so.
Yeah, but in terms of awards and recognition from like a Hellberg's perspective, for example, like is he nominated for Sportsman of the Year?
No.
He's never won it.
Never been nominated.
And yet he's a guy who's been in the Premier League starting for the most part for about a good 6 or 7 years now, and he scores 10 to 15 goals. There was 1 year where he got about 21 or 22 for Burnley, you know?
I think there was a period there where he scored double figures 4 years in a row, and the only other players during the time that had done that were the very best strikers.
It's like Harry Kane and Mo Salah or something like that. There you go, the very best strikers in the league. Simon Doull,
Dawley, great friend of the show, spends his whole life travelling the world calling cricket. We caught him at the airport. He was on his way back to Dubai from India today, but he did get time yesterday on the subcontinent to take in Finn Allen's remarkable knock in Dunedin. Dawley, great student of the game. We've been speaking for a year about Finn Allen, about what it's going to take for him to break through to the next level. Is this it? Is those 2 innings in Hamilton and Dunedin, is this exactly what he needed? Simon with his thoughts. Finn Allen yesterday, I know that you've read this. I don't know how much of it you saw. 16 sixes, Simon, and, mate, about 4 or 5 of them were out of the ground. So I think he cost New Zealand cricket about $1,200 or $1,300 in balls.
Yeah, look, a year ago, we were talking about Finn Allen quite a bit, and I just don't think he was the finished product. He's clearly worked hard in that last sort of 7 or 8 months. He's developed his game to be more than just a sort of a one-dimensional player. And I'm really pleased for him, actually. I wasn't sure he could go away and do that, but a bit more maturity, a little bit more time. And to reel off 3 scores, first one was decent, second one very good, and then obviously what he did yesterday in Dunedin was just exceptional. So to open the batting to strike in T20 cricket at 165, I think he's in the top 2 or 3 of strike rates for opening batters in world cricket at the moment who have played more than 15 games. So he's clearly starting to come of age and starting to put the rewards or the scores on the board that New Zealand have wanted and needed from him. So, I think might be a turning point for him against, what still is to be considered a pretty good Pakistan attack.
I don't know how much of it you watched, mate. I mean, the bowling, we had coming there yesterday, and he said the bowling was dumb. They seem to be bowling in his slot. But, hey, I mean, look, he doesn't control that. He just controls what he's doing. So a couple of things about this. He's made mention of the fact that those around him are giving him the licence to go. So that means that there's a guy up the other end. Conway's in an absolute rutter form at the moment, but Kane, before he got injured, giving him a licence. So they're playing a bit more of an anchor innings. But it was all about shot selection for him, wasn't it? That's what you used to talk about, getting his head right and actually just realising that you don't have to hit the tar off every single delivery.
Yeah, and reaction, I think, Marty. That was the one thing I saw with Finn Allen a lot early on, was that he was premeditating rather than reacting to what was bowled to him. And, for a big guy, he plays the pull shot, the hook shot really well. He's got unbelievable power. We know that. And so if he remains in the moment and reacts to what's delivered, I think he will have success. And he seems to have turned a bit of a corner on that front. So that's the key. And, just watching some of these Indian players in the last few weeks, when that happens, the frustration for myself, for commentators, for probably some New Zealand fans is when they're going searching for something that is not there. When you have that, what we term big boy power, like Finn Allen does, you don't have to go searching too often because there will be enough balls in your wheelhouse, in your arc, if you just are able to rotate, strike, and put those bad balls away, and at times putting good balls away. And I think, as I say, I think throughout the series, he's got better, obviously, with a 30-odd in the first game, 70 in the next one, and then the big 100. It just shows me that there is some maturity creeping into his game now, which is a great sign for New Zealand cricket and for him.
Pakistan, this is what I'm quoting coming from yesterday, and Craig was saying, look, they only bowled one wide Yorker. Now, the wide Yorker seems to be the stock ball now in white ball cricket, doesn't it? You've got to get the guy out of the crease and you've got to get him stretching. And this is just, my limited knowledge and expertise on it. But if I have one worry, it's still his footwork, and it's still, if you bowl there enough, is he going to, come down the pitch? Is he going to adjust that body, or is he just going to stay stuck in his crease and swing his bat?
Yeah, well, that'll happen in time when he gets enough of those deliveries. And if people start to bowl that type of delivery to him, he's going to have to adjust, and he's going to have to learn how to play that particular delivery. It's not the easiest ball to bowl inside the tram lines, but I think it's a very effective delivery, because what you're trying to do, not only are you trying to restrict the scoring or the power of the batter by taking the power away from the, under the eye, in the arc, you're also trying to cut off one side of the ground. So you can set a field accordingly, almost have 4 players on the offside boundary rather than your sort of normal 2 and 3 on either side, and bowl to one side of the ground. Now, you probably tend to do that more to the bigger side of the ground if there is one, if you're right in the middle of the ground. And the one thing about, University Oval in Dunedin, it's not huge.
No.
We know that. And with the modern day player and the modern day bats, sometimes a half a hit can clear the boundary still. So, look, it's not easy. When that time comes that he's faced with a lot of those types of deliveries, then he will have to find a way to adjust. But as I said, I think there's a certain sense of maturity maybe starting to creep, a little bit of learning over the last year and a half or so. And, you hope that when that happens, he is able to adjust and still able to find a way to pick up the odd boundary and get himself off strike as well.
Look, if he can continue this form, keep developing and growing, the T20 World Cup, to have somebody that could replace Brendan McCullum and also Guppy with that power hitting at the start, I mean, it just offers some. And then you've got Conway, who we know will find form at some stage. Just finally on this, how much impact does an innings like that have? And I go back to Corey Anderson when he got that wicked one-day century against the Windies in Queenstown off about 37, 38 ball time. Remember that? And he got an IPL contract straight away from there. And he's still playing cricket, as Corey had some terrible injury problems. But an innings like that for Finn Allen, what does it do? Because everyone in the world who loves cricket knows about that innings now.
Yeah, they do. It's probably come at a good time for him, if I can say that in all fairness. If he'd done that prior to the IPL and all of a sudden picked up a huge contract, it adds an enormous amount of pressure. He's now got 8 months, 9 months. Now, if somebody gets injured in the IPL, he may be picked up as a replacement, courtesy of what he's doing at the moment. That's an option for him. But I also think that if he can continue his development over the next 7, 8, 9 months, have a good T20 World Cup, the next option will be the one for him. You're always looking for power overseas players. Certain sides will be looking to replace guys at the top of the order who may be getting on a little bit, and guys who are out of form. So I think, in all fairness, although if it had come prior to the IPL, he might have got a big pay, and this has probably not come at a bad time.
Greg Marto, former Wallaby fullback, Triple M Breakfast host, #1 rating show in Brisbane. Congratulations and cock-a-doodle-doo and all of that kind of stuff. More importantly, though, let's talk some rugby, mate. The Wallabies coach, come on. You must want an Aussie for that. And also, Greg, truth. How are your beloved Reds going to go this year? How are your beloved Broncos going to go this year? And how are your Wallabies going to go this year? We got to talk rugby. We had Christy Doran on the program from the Raw in Brisbane the other day. I just asked him, okay, look, they've already announced the Lions coach for 2025. Why can't you find a Wallabies coach?
Did you see the last 2 Wallabies coaches we decided upon? We didn't like them, so we're taking our time this time. Mate, if it's not Stephen Larkham, I give up. Like, I want someone with actually passion that can pat their chest and go, I'm into this. I don't want Joe Schmidt. I know he's a lovely bloke, and I do like Joe, and I know he's up on all the modern terms. But so Stephen Larkham, he's been there. I trust him. And ask me in 8 months, 10 months, we'll probably be sacking him. But, mate, that's who I want. But they're taking their time because they want to appear that they've done a complete worldwide search and done their due diligence this time rather than, oh, look at that bloke. It's Eddie Jones. He's really good. Let's get him. So we're taking our time. And what's the hurry anyway? We haven't played a game of footy yet, so... I
only read a couple of notes here. So you got Raylan Castle, you got Dave Rennie, and also Robbie Deans, unfortunately. Look, I mean, I think there's a pattern here. Seriously, how important is it to you as an ex-Wallaby? You know Daniel Herbert, he's the guy in charge now. He's the new chairman. He's a mate of yours. How important is it to him?
I trust him.
Yeah, to all you old Wallabies, that you get an Australian to coach your team?
Do old Wallabies count in general? It's more important to engage with the fans. Stephen Larkham will always be a hero. He won a World Cup at 5'8" after switching from fullback. We watched him win Super Rugby competitions with the Brumbies. They've got to do this just to engage the fans. I know I said that with Matt Ebby. What has to engage the fan has to be winning. But Stephen Larkham, at least people have faith in him and love him, and he's never done anything except for that one time. Anyway, he's never done anything stupid.
One time.
Have I ever told you that story? How he
on.
scratched his initials in the World Cup as they were coming home from 1999?
Yeah, look, these are my favourite stories. So he scratched his initials in, and Tim Horan was biffing rocks on a house in Timaru as he walked past, right?
Yeah, I never told you that story, did I?
Both of those stories, mate. I love it. No,
If
Larkin's
they
the
ever
guy. He's
found
got
out
to be
that
your
I'm
guy.
telling
Come on.
stories.
I mean, he's got to be. Look, Bernie Larkin, mate, he epitomises an era when Australian rugby ruled the world. Surely that's a good place to start.
Well, it gives fans faith. You've got to engage all of footy, especially at the start of the season. You think whether it's rugby league, whether it's AFL, whether it's rugby union, before a ball is kicked, what you got to offer your fans, because you got to sell tickets and you got to offer them hope. That's what it's got to be hope, because especially if you've had a bad season, if you've won things the year before, no problems. It's easy to sell. But if you're at rock bottom like we are right now, you've got to offer hope, and everyone goes, I love rugby. I'm back on. Stephen Larkham's coaching. But if you appoint Joe Smith and he may be a superior coach, you go, hey, no, I'll wait and see what happens. But right now, if you appoint Stephen Larkham, I'm back on. I need to I need to buy some more Wallabies gear. Mate, that's what it's all about.
That makes sense. All right, let's end on this and think clearly here, because I'm going to remind you of this throughout the year. I want to know how your Reds are going to go in Super Rugby, and I want to know how your Broncos are going to go in the NRL.
Okay. I'll start with Broncos, because I've actually went down to training there the other day. They're going to be magnificent. I know we lost 3 forwards and 1 back, Herbie Farnworth. Replaced them well. Broncos will be in the top 4. Hey, keep an eye on the Titans. They're looking all right under Desi Hasler down the Gold Coast. So there's those two. The Reds, yeah, not so sure, mate. We haven't got the cattle at the moment. I think we're losing too many players to league.
And the Wallabies? Too much hesitation in the other. Too much hesitation.
Yeah, mate, we're not good enough. We ain't got the cattle. It may take 3 years, may take 2 years. We need a couple of world-beating youngsters, and I can't see them yet.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.